Welcome, dear colleagues, partners, friends. Welcome to the opening session of the VLR VSR days. This has been such an inspiring week. So many sessions where local governments, regional governments have shared their experiences, stakeholders have shared their experiences on SDG localization. And we continue this dialogue today, tomorrow, day after, as part of this high-level political forum. My name is Shipra Narangsuri. I'm the Chief of Urban Practices at UN Habitat and the lead for SDG localization and local and regional governments. This year, on the occasion of the high-level political forum, we've created this special virtual place for local governments, regional governments, and stakeholders to share their experiences in developing local and subnational reviews. During the session today, we will launch the second volume of UN Habitat and UCLG's guidelines for VLRs, which are titled Towards a New Generation of VLRs, Exploring the National-Local Link. And I'm delighted to have with us in the session the Undersecretary General and Executive Director of UN Habitat, Madam Maimouna Mohammed Sharif, and of course, the Secretary General of UCLG, Emilia Saiz, together to launch this and to inspire us as we go forward on this journey. The guidelines we are launching today are a cornerstone towards the new era of VLRs. We've had the VLR movement growing exponentially over the last couple of years, and we hope that these guidelines will inspire and strengthen multi-level governance, multi-level coordination for SDG monitoring, reporting, and implementation, because we know that no level of government, no sphere of government can do it alone. And Emilia, I defer to you on the use of the word sphere of government, not level of government. Along with the guidelines, we will also present what we call the VLR communique as a joint call from partners around the globe to strengthen the relationship and the coordination between VLRs and VNRs. At UN Habitat and UCLG, we look and support VLRs and VSRs as powerful accelerators of SDG localization. To harness their potential, we believe that a strong and structural connection with VNRs and the National SDG implementation framework is absolutely key. We have an exciting session lined up. We have many international partners which will share their experience with us today. For all of you who are attending, thank you very much for being here. You will be able to share your remarks and your observations and your reflections and questions in the chat. I will encourage all the speakers also to monitor the chat and reply directly to some of the questions there. We will have a panel discussion and hopefully be able to take some of the questions there if we have time. And we have interpretation in this meeting in English, French, Spanish, and Turkish. As you know, we've done this for a year and a half. You'll see a little globe at the bottom of your screen which says interpretation. Click on it and you should be able to access the language that you are most familiar with. So without further ado and without taking any more time, let me pass the word to our Executive Director, Madam Maimouna Mohammed Sharif, for her opening remarks. Edie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Shipra, Ms. Emilia Saiz, my friends, Secretary General of UCLG, and all colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, whenever you are in this world, because now we're supposed to be in New York at this moment, but now we are on screen. This is the new normal of working today. I'm very delighted to welcome you all to the launch of the second volume of the guidelines for voluntary local reviews and of the VLR communique. So today is a very, very important day. It marks the culmination of several important efforts and the beginning of a new one on our VLR journey. So first of all, I would like to thank Emilia and all the colleagues in UCLG who have been working with us to develop this new volume of the VLR guidelines. You will recall that we joined hands to support VLRs and VSRs at the beginning of last year. But since then, we have already launched two guidelines, organized countless exchanges and learning events, and now with the VLR, VSR days, open new opportunities for local governments to present their work and have their voices heard at the HLPF. So as I have said before, UN Habitat working with the local and regional governments towards common goals, placing our communities and our people at the center of our efforts is in our DNA. It is a commitment that we renew and reaffirm, not just every year at the high-level political forum, but every day through every aspect of our work. So I would like to commend the efforts of UN Habitat's SDG localization team that has coordinated the development of the guidelines, who worked tirelessly in the past months, connecting with partners worldwide to support the VLR global movement. So VLRs and SDG localization, my colleagues, are indeed one of my top 3 priorities for 2021 and 2022, together with housing and climate change. So dear colleagues, today we lay another important piece of the foundations of SDG reporting and implementation, the connection between VNR and VLRs. So we are all aware that the successful implementation of these SDGs depend on local action and leadership. But local and regional governments cannot act alone. They need an enabling environment with requisite resources and fit-for-purpose legal frameworks to be able to fulfill their development mandates. So at the same time, national governments need information and support from their local counterparts to design responsive policies and implement them effectively at the community level. So actually, we are facing a combination of crises that is unprecedented in at least a generation, the pandemic. So the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, rising poverty and inequality levels. So these require us to rethink and radically improve our governance system. So our communities need to be at the center of this process, and voluntary local and subnational reviews can help us in ensuring that this is so. So the interconnection across the various levels of governance is indeed the key for the success of the 2030 agenda and a just, inclusive, and green recovery from the pandemic. So the guidelines demonstrate that the existence of strong connection between VLRs and VNR is a sign of a healthy multi-level governance arrangement. But of course, context and specification vary across cases and countries. But the VNR connection has proven to be a catalyst for enhancing dialogue, understanding, and mutual recognition between levels of government on SDG-related matters. So in this regards, I am happy that we have here today many international partners who will share their experience, including our friends from Finland, who have greatly inspired the content of the guidelines and the creation of the VNR Life Laboratory. So dear friends, colleagues, 2 final points I would like to share and to stress together with you. Number 1, local reviews are becoming more and more central in local government's work and their narrative on sustainability. So during the past 2 years of discussion at the local and regional government forum, almost every speaker referred their effort to develop a VLR. We need to identify ways for VLR and VNRs to add value to one another. To do so, local and regional government should be formally and structurally included in the process of development of VNRs. My second point, as the Secretary General says, data is key to solve most pressing issues of our time. Many local governments face difficulties in developing and collecting data at local level. At the same time, many national statistical officers don't have access to information at city level. So the link between VLRs and VNRs can be a turning point for the creation of collaborative and multi-level data environments centered on SDGs. So I'm also happy to say that UN Habitat, mandated by the UN General Assembly, is working with a large number of partners now to finalize the global urban monitoring framework that will be the great support for the development of both voluntary local reviews and voluntary national reviews. So let me conclude here by once again thanking all the partners that have made themselves available for interviews and meetings. And you still be friend of UN Habitat after so many interviews and meetings. Share your documentation experience, and also which has been so vital for the development of these guidelines. So these guidelines are yours. These guidelines are ours. These are for you. And own them, use them, share them with your national and local partners. So UN Habitat and UCLG, my friend Emilia Sais, will remain on your side to support you on both paths to develop your voluntary local review, implement the new urban agenda, and localize the sustainable development goals. So we are here for you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Shipra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edie. Thank you for those inspiring words as usual. And now my absolute pleasure to turn to Miss Emilia Sais, who needs no introduction. As a true champion of SDGs, of SDG localization, as a powerful advocate of local and regional governments, and a long-standing friend of UN Habitat. Emilia, the Secretary General of UCLG, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Cipra, and thank you so much, Executive Director, for this powerful message that you have delivered. You can sense the excitement and the happiness in our voices. It is indeed a very joyful moment for us all in the municipal movement because we are presenting to the international community what has become truly a movement as well. Localization is a movement right now, and this little piece that we are adding to it with the voluntary local and the voluntary subnational reviews is extremely relevant. We have seen the very trying moments that we are going through, and as you were saying, Executive Director, we during the local and regional governments forum just these past days, we could sense how trying these times still are, how COVID is still challenging our governance systems, our economic system, our social system. And yet, we have also seen how committed local and regional governments, territories everywhere in the world are to this framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, because they see it as a very good tool to address the challenges of our time. And the challenges of our time are great. For the first time in a generation, the quest to end poverty has suffered a very severe setback. Studies say that over 120 million additional people are living in poverty now in 2020, and more are expected to come. We need to do something, and we need to do it now. And what we are trying to show through the promotion of the voluntary local reviews and the voluntary subnational reviews is that the solutions can be found at the local level. For us, the voluntary local reviews are more than a simple monitoring tool. They are not only a reporting tool, they are a test of the political will to actually contribute to the changes that we know we need to trigger to make our planet sustainable. And they are also a very important way to connect the dots and to see how the different policies that we are developing at local level are connected, not only with our local and national realities, but also with the global ambitious agenda that the that the 2030 framework has provided to ourselves. We have a lot to celebrate. We have to celebrate that this movement is there and that the commitment of local and regional governments around the world to the sustainable development goals is growing and growing, and UN Habitat and UCLG, but also the general membership of the Global Task Force, our full constituency is very committed to this. But we also have some things that we cannot really celebrate, and we see in the 5th annual report that we have produced on localization this year, also presented last Friday, we have seen how the reference to local level has declined in the voluntary national reviews. The good news then again is that when local governments and subnational governments are referred to, they are referred to in a very structural and important manner. And we are very pleased to say that the voluntary subnational reviews, so that is the country-wide perspective on localization triggered by national governments, by national associations of local governments, they have been taken really seriously in the different countries. So there is a little bit of everything, and we still need some convincing to do to provide to these important initiatives the right scope. It's not a secret that some national governments might need a little bit more convincing, that we need more support from their side. You just came out of a very important meeting at the level of UN Habitat Executive Director, where we could see that we still need to work on that, really make people understand how meaningful this can be. We truly feel that these guidelines can be a very important contribution to show you inspiring cases, to demonstrate how cities, local and regional governments of all sizes are able to do this, but also to ask questions about what the links are between the local and the national level. I could go on and talk forever. I'll stop here. I'll stop here because we want to hear from the different cases. And I just want to finish expressing once again our commitments of our technical teams, but also of our political leadership, to continue working towards localization, to continue triggering change from the local level and into the global solutions. We need to be together in this. This pandemic is not over, and there are more crises coming. The climate one is already here with us. We truly believe that with these guidelines, we are going to be inspiring local and regional governments around the world to take that extra mile to help us achieve the global goals that we all believe in. So thank you very much. Thank you, UN Habitat, for your commitment. Thank you, UCLG team as well, for all the work that has been done, in particular the research team. Let us continue. Looking forward to hearing about the people that walked the talk and that did the work this afternoon.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you very much, Emilia. So there we are. We are in a virtual space, a virtual launch of the guidelines with the executive director and the Secretary General of UCLG. This is where we release. If we were in New York, this is where we would have cut a ribbon and released the publication. But I think now I will ask my colleagues to show us what the publication looks like. This is it. It's in front of you. And I believe with perfect timing, this is up on the website, and the team will be sharing the link with you directly after in the chat. So the guidelines are accessible. And as the executive director said, they are yours. Use them, own them, share them. As Emilia said, onwards and upwards. There we go. This is just a very big milestone in a journey that continues. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on, as both our principals have said, there is always a team behind the scenes that strives endlessly to produce, this high quality, excellent work. And I'm going to give the floor to two such people right now to actually present to you volume 2 of the guidelines. Martino Miraglia, who's the Human Settlements Officer in charge of SDG localization at UN Habitat, and Ainara Fernandez, who's the Research Officer at UCLG, two people who worked very, very, very hard to bring these guidelines, the volume 2 together. I will ask you to kindly present the main findings of the guidelines to the community of practice present here today. Martino, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shipra. I hope that you can all hear me. And yes, let me just join you, ED, and Emilia in thanking all the partners that made these guidelines possible, and especially the UCLG team with whom we have been working tirelessly in the past months to make this guideline available for everyone. So we are going to be very quick, I think, in presenting the guidelines. The link is on the chat, so I hope that everyone can have a look at it while we are also presenting the PowerPoint. We are going through quickly the main key pillars of our work. Very quickly here as well, why we wanted to develop this second volume of the guidelines. It's developed process, so and the engagement that we have with many of the partners that are here present today, and then we will pass through the main findings, recommendations, and see what is next. So why the second volume of the guidelines? Well, first, we heard it in the speech of Emilia and ED, there is an increasing demand for multi-level coordination and alignment, especially when it comes to development processes, SDGs implementation, and the outbreak of the crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic has shown clearly the centrality of local and regional governments and the need to rethink our multi-level governance systems. Hence, we wanted to take this push to go deeper into the analysis of the relation between VNRs and VLRs, trying to understand where the national local reviews can add value to one another, and at the same time seeing which were the existing multi-level governance mechanisms for SDG implementation. The ultimate goal, besides the facilitation of dialogue, collaboration, and mutual learning, and to catalyze the participation of more local and regional governments in the VLR movement, is to offer practical guidelines, action-oriented tools, and information to both local as well as national governments. These, when we say these guidelines are yours, it's for really everyone, from the local sphere to the national sphere of governments, to reinforce the cooperation. And we can move forward, I think, with the slides. Thank you. So the process, we have taken a few months of analysis, and again, nothing of this would have been possible without you, without the experience of the local and national governments, without your availability in sharing with us your documentation, your strategies, your plans, and in making yourself available to talk to us in many interviews that we have bilaterally with you. So our process started at the end of 2020 with qualitative assessment of the existing voluntary local reviews, but also while accessing some of the ones that are currently under development, with many bilateral meetings with and open discussions with many of you, and of course by drawing information through the different global events and meetings that have happened in the past year, many of them at global, national, and also regional level. Through this whole analysis, and based on this information, we identified 4 main policy pillars that we identified as key to strengthen the VLR-VNR coordination, where VLRs and VNRs can add value one another in order to improve monitoring and implementation of the SDGs, the mainstreaming of the SDGs, data environments and development of the indicators, the participation and social inclusion, and finally, the means of implementation. This is just to show you a bit how which is the information that we based our analysis from, the different VLRs existing, both the one published and the one upcoming. Hence, here I pass the word to Ainara.
Thank you very much, Martino, and hello, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Ainara Fernandez from UCLG Research, and I'll be providing some insights into the structure, some of the main findings, and some of the main recommendations of the Volume 2 of the guidelines. So the guidelines follow a structure that has a very clear objective, which is to make the guidelines a document that's practical, that is useful, as Martino was saying, to the local and regional governments, but also to national governments and to international organizations to support SDG monitoring and reporting at all levels. So the guidelines start off by indicating how it is that they contribute to this global reporting ecosystem. And this is precisely by indicating the venues, the different ways in which cooperation between levels of government and between different stakeholders can be improved, in order to then in turn improve the different, both local and national reporting efforts. So the guidelines provide a very extensive analysis of the linkages that exist between the voluntary national reviews and the voluntary local reviews that have been published to date, in order to then delve deeper into the key dimensions that need to be strengthened in order to actually improve these linkages. This analysis is then complemented by a mapping of how the global ecosystem supporting SDG localization is currently looking like. And the guidelines end with a conclusion that puts forward the following reflection, which is, by strengthening cooperation between levels of government, how can we move forward? How can we do it to trigger this new generation of both VLRs, but also VSRs and VNRs, to actually increase the transformational potential that SDG monitoring conveys? So let's take this question as a departure point to now look at some of the main findings. And today there are 4 main findings that I want to share with you. And for me, the first one is as straightforward as it is relevant. And it is simply that the expansion of subnational reporting has exceeded expectations. In only 1 year, we have seen how the number of VLRs that are either available or that are about to be published has more than doubled. And there have been 15 voluntary subnational reviews that have emerged worldwide. And I think that this tells us something really important, which is that subnational reporting is here to stay. And there is a large potential that can be leveraged. And this takes me directly into the second main finding that I want to share with you, which is that these bottom-up reporting efforts are actually acting as catalysts for enhanced multi-level governance. And they are triggering innovation when it comes to SDG coordination mechanisms. As you will see from the guidelines, both local and regional governments, but also national governments, have increased the demand for meeting midways, for enhancing dialogue. And this in turn has given rise to a wide array of different arrangements that are more formal, that are more informal and ad hoc, but which takes me to the third finding, that have intensified dialogue and cooperation. And the instances in which this has happened have in turn turned into an increasing degree of intertwining between local and national reporting processes. And this has had very positive outcome. I mean, we can see how more local and regional governments are now part of national delegations to the HLPF presenting the VNRs. We have seen how these local government sections in the VNRs have become larger. They have become more complex. They have become more co-produced. These experiences are real, and they're telling us that cooperation is indeed possible and that the outcomes come very fast and they're very positive. However, the guidelines also show that there is a wide margin for improving these linkages and for further leveraging the synergies that exist. And as our Secretary General Emilia Sais also introduced previously, on a global average, the involvement of local and regional governments in this year's VNRs has actually decreased in comparison to last year. So in sum, there is a lot of work that lies ahead of us. But the guidelines also do show that strengthened cooperation between levels of government actually opens up the door to key opportunities to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. So for instance, in terms of SDG mainstreaming, the national level can contribute the vision, the resources, the steering, and the local and regional governments can bring this to the local realities and the local communities. When it comes to indicators and data ecosystems, the links between the voluntary local reviews and the national reviews and the subnational reviews can prove essential to bridge the gap that exists between the official indicators and the national and the local realities and capacities. Moreover, increased cooperation can have a tremendously positive impact when it comes to enhancing social participation and when it comes to making the means of implementation and the SDG implementation process more transparent and also fairer in terms of the allocation of resources, but also in terms of the allocation of political responsibilities. And in response to these four main findings, I want to leave with you some 4 key recommendations. The first one being, we need to keep on promoting enabling environments for subnational reporting. And this means necessarily strengthening the joint mechanisms for multi-level cooperation. We need to keep on strengthening VLRs, and we need to support their expansion and their systematization, and we need to support other reporting tools, such as the voluntary subnational reviews. We need to keep on leveraging and exploring the potential synergies between VLRs and VNRs and VSRs. And for this, we need to develop coalitions between local, regional, and national governments to finally overcome policy fragmentation. And finally, but not least, we need to continue to reinforce the international ecosystem to support some national reporting. And this means building and consolidating partnerships. This means increasing the participation of local and regional governments in regional and global fora, and in particular in the HLPF. But it also means supporting local and regional governments and their associations to further propel some national reporting via city-to-city cooperation, via capacity building, via peer learnings, all of these kinds of initiatives. So in sum, as I said earlier, the potential for transformation is really large, and there is a role that every single actor, that all of us can play to turn this potential into a reality. And that being said, I turn to my colleague Martino to tell us what's next. Martino.
Yes, thank you, Ainara. Thanks a lot. Being mindful of the time, just to say that we have the experiences, we have the instruments, and we have the guidelines now. So even though VLR and VNR connection is still at the initial stage, we have now the knowledge to strengthen this connection. Also announcing that we are further developing new information, research, and capacity building material for us to work on multi-level governance and SDG localization, and to highlight a few of the events that were already highlighted actually in the opening, the high-level meeting for the review of the new urban agenda, and the World Urban Forum specifically in June 2022, where voluntary ROCA reviews, SDG localization will certainly have a special moment, as beyond the HLPF, the WUF will be the UN-led forum for SDG localization. That said, thank you again, everyone, and Shipra, over to you again.
Thank you, Martino. Thank you, Ainara, not just for that very, very good presentation, but also for all your work in the run-up, which has brought us here today. So thank you again. Great job done. Let me move on now and invite 2 very special guests from Finland. Finland, if you open the guidelines, you will see that it's not a normal case study included in a publication. The case of Finland has really been a live laboratory for the VLR-VNR connection. As our 2 presenters, our 2 friends from Finland will tell you, that they have been, the process of making the connection between VLR and VNR has been evolving in Finland as we speak, and the development of the guidelines has just accompanied this process and seen how it has been evolving and learned from it while it has been developing. So thank you for allowing us to accompany you on this journey and for being the live laboratory from which the entire world can learn. I would like to invite Mr. Sami Perkala, Secretary General of the Finnish National Commission on Sustainable Development from the Prime Minister's Office, and Mia Malin, who's the Project Manager for SDGs at the City of Helsinki. Colleagues, thank you again for being with us. Thank you for your support in this process, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We have prepared a joint presentation with Mia from the City of Helsinki. And in this presentation, I will first tell you a bit about the voluntary national review of Finland, how it was prepared in 2020, and then a bit more about the cooperation between the government of Finland and local governments and cities that have been preparing their VLRs in 2020 and this year as well. And then after that, Mia will tell in more detail about the work of cities in Finland in the preparation of VLRs and the cooperation between cities, and also in a bit more detail about the VLR of Helsinki. And as was said, we have been working closely with UN Habitat and UCLG as well, and we hope that our experiences have supported in the preparation of these guidelines. We will also benefit from these guidelines in Finland, I believe, very much, and hope that everybody else will also take advantage of all this work that has been done by UN Habitat and UCLG in this topic. We have prepared some slides, so maybe if we could have the first slide now. Yes, thank you. And now just next slide, please. Yes, okay, so a few words about the voluntary national review of Finland and that process. So Finland did its first VNR in 2016 at the point where we started the Agenda 2030 implementation in Finland. At that point, the VNR was more about the structures of national implementation and our plans on how to start the Agenda 2030 work. And now, as we prepared our second VNR in 2020, we really wanted to focus on the progress that has been achieved in Finland between 2016 and 2020. And for the preparation of the VNR, we used our national follow-up and review and monitoring data, and we have done some external studies as well, and an external evaluation as well. So we had quite a lot of data to build our VNR on. But what was the key element, in my view, of our VNR was that in the VNR, we assessed our progress in all 17 SDGs. And the assessment was done in a way that if you opened one page of the VNR report, on your left-hand side, you could read the assessment of the government on the progress made. And on the right-hand side, you could see the assessment of the civil society of the progress made in Finland. So really, it was a dialogue, interplay between the government views and then the views of the civil society. And this is something that is very important for Finland, and we found that process of preparing that VNR this way very useful. And also there are specific chapters in our VNR that are written by stakeholders and institutions. And there are also chapters or sub-chapters prepared by cities and regions in that report. In addition to that, we also had a peer dialogue with the governments of Mozambique and Switzerland in the preparation of our VNR to really hear from other countries how they see our progress and what kind of ideas they had to develop our reports. Yes, so this time in 2020, the VNR was prepared at the same time when we prepared our second national implementation plan. So the second part of the 2019 and the first part of the 2020 was a really busy time in Finland. and the timing in that sense was not perfect. So the next time we will have the government implementation plan updated in 23 to 24, and then we have decided to make our next VNR in 25. Next slide. So a few words about the cooperation between VLR cities during the preparation of our VNR report. So in 2020, the cities of Turku and Espoo prepared their VLRs. And also Helsinki had made its first VLR in 2019 and second this year, but Turku and Espoo had their VLRs at the same time with our national VNR. So as I said, the VLRs of Turku and Espoo, they were included in our VNR as case examples of local level implementation, and they also formed a part of our VNR presentation at the HLPF. So they were included in the presentation video, which was made by the Prime Minister of Finland, and also during the HLPF there were several VLR labs where the government and the cities together discussed about the preparation of the VNR and VLRs. And also in our national launch of VNR and then the VLRs, we had some cross-references between cities and the government. In our VNR launch, there was one segment about cities and VLRs, and then when Turku and Espoo launched their VLR reports, there was a government official as well speaking in that event. And also during the preparation of the VLRs, there were joint meetings organized between the government officials and then the city officials preparing the VLRs. And we had many good discussions, exchanging our experiences on what has worked at the government level in the preparation of the VNR, and then from the side of the cities, what has worked or what was planned to be done at the level of city officials. And then I will finish soon, but my last point is about Nordic cooperation. So this year, Finland chairs the Nordic Council of Ministers, which is a structure for cooperation between Nordic countries. And in that role, we organized this spring a Nordic VLR workshop, which I think was quite successful. We had many cities from different Nordic countries telling about their VLRs and sharing their experiences, and I believe this provided good insights to city and government officials, and also it was a great event for networking between officials in different Nordic cities working around the SDGs. So that was all from me, and now I hand over to Mia. Mia, please.
Thank you, Sami, and thank you for the organizers, UN Habitat, UCLC. It's a great honor to be part of these new guidelines and share our experiences. And my name is Mia Malin, and I'm coordinating the VLR and SDG work in the city of Helsinki. And I try to be brief as I say a few words from the city's perspective. First of all, the Finnish cities has been very active in the VLR work. As Sami already mentioned, in Helsinki, we have published 2 VLRs, and then city of Espoo and Turku in 2020. And the newest one is the city of Vantaa a couple of weeks ago. And there is more cities preparing and a lot of activities around the topic. And I think the one reason for this very strong activities, the national work in Prime Minister Office promoting SDGs and this VNR work. And then we have had a couple of front-runner cities making in very early steps the international cooperation and preparing VLRs. And I think that's why we are very active in the VLR work at the moment. And how I see the VNR and VLR connection is that the VNR is giving the overall picture in Finland and taking also the responsibility for reporting the global SDG indicators. And we in the cities in VLR, we can focus more to the local questions and topics which are most important for us. And also, if you look Helsinki, the topics are very different than if we look some smaller municipality in the northern Finland. And what we do, we try to find the best indicators supporting our work and also link the VLR work to our strategy and management in the city, which I see one of the most important goals in the VLR work. And then you can take the next slide, please. I would like to say a few words in the cooperation and projects going on in Finland between the national and the local level. So a couple of weeks ago, we got national project funding for our city to our city network. The VLR network in the cities. You can take the next slide, please. And yes, thank you. And this is very great news for us that we are getting this project so we can start even more like concrete co-working and developing the SDGs tools for the local level. And in this network and this project, the Association of the Finnish Municipalities is going to take the coordination. And this is also important because the Association of Finnish Municipalities can then share these tools and best practices to the smaller municipalities in Finland. And then there is also other project. I don't mention the all, but maybe the newest one. It's quite interesting. There is now going on a project focusing the collection and developing the local indicators for the new urban agenda indicators, and also making the link between these and between the VLR work. And this is quite interesting. And I think the positive sign is that now we are trying to find a better connection between all these different projects and networks and actions, because I think before they have been quite separate and also overlapping. And from the city's perspective, it has been quite difficult to follow. So as has mentioned before, I think in Finland now, in step by step, we are building the multi-level system and cooperation here, and this is great. And you can take the last one. In the last, I would like to say a few words from Helsinki. In our case, as I mentioned, we published the second VLR in the May. And I would like to point out a few development steps, what has happened between the first VLR 2019 and the second VLR. You can take the next slide, please. Or maybe it's very slow for me. First of all, I would like to mention the format. We decided to do the website report and also the electronic indicator platform. And this is give us more opportunity to share more information, and also the indicators are automatically updated, and they are internally in the same platform where the cities strategic indicators are. And then we look all the SDGs, and we made our own thematical approach, trying to focus the topics important for us. and highlighted the concrete actions and also the improvements and do the assessment from the last 4-year strategy period. And the better integration of the VLR work to our strategic management has happened, and this is very important. And also we wanted to do the peer learning in this VLR, and we made the assessment with the UN Youth of Helsinki, and also we are doing the peer learning between the City of Los Angeles. And I think in general, this all the cooperation in national level and international level has big effect to our work, and we have learned a lot from the others' examples, and we have took to this second VLR like elements from our great VNR work and from the other cities' examples and made our own model. And I really want to thank you and Habitat UCLC, these new guidelines. It's very helpful for the cities and for the regions and all the other work that you are doing, supporting us and activating the cooperation. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sami. Thank you, Mia. Again, not just for today, but for the cooperation and for being such a shining example for many, many other cities and countries to align, to co-create their VNRs, not just align, but actually develop them together, share that whole process, and share the responsibility of achieving the SDGs in your context and implementing the new urban agenda in your context. So thank you very much again, and we hope to continue this excellent collaboration with you in the coming future. It's now my great pleasure to hand over to my colleague Edgardo Wilski for a panel discussion. Now, everybody knows that behind any such product, there has to be a thinker, a brain, someone who guides, someone who supports, someone who sets out the vision for these guidelines. And Edgardo is that person. Edgardo is the head of research at UCLG. He has really been a very, very important guiding force for the development of both Volume 1 and this Volume 2 of the guidelines. Edgardo, I will leave it to you to introduce your panel and to moderate the very exciting discussion coming up ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bra. I hope you hear me well, and it's a pleasure to share all this work with you, Shipra, Martino, and all the team. I think this is shared. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the distinguished participants of the panel to share their experience and insights on the links between the national and local reporting process to assess the progress of the implementation of the SDGs at local levels. The panel includes representatives from the national governments in charge of the VNR process, mayors, high-level officers from local administrations and from local governments associations, as well as experiment researchers. All the participants come from countries that have presented their VNRs this year: Mexico, Germany, Spain, Japan, or in 2020 as Kenya and Turkey. 3 representatives of local and regional governments have developed voluntary local reviews as Sultan Bailey, Bond, the Basque Country, or subnational reviews as the Council of Governors of Kenya. And finally, Mr. Fujino from Aigen, Japan, have very close contributed with the Japanese cities to elaborate the VLRs. Then, each of them have different institutional traditions, federal countries, unitary countries, diverse cultures of national and local institutional dialogue. I hope that this exchange will help us to learn more about the different experiences and contrast them with the lessons proposed in the guidelines. And particularly with regard to the enabling institutional environment, the VLRs connection, the possible evolution of VLRs, and how to strengthen the VLRs movement. I will propose you to develop this panel as a conversation in 2 rounds. And for introduce the first conversation, each of you will have the possibility to speak in each of the rounds. If you keep the time, that means around 3 minutes each intervention in each round, then we will have maybe time to expand a little. Then, to introduce the first round of questions, keeping the order that was presented in the agenda, the question is, for the first round, how is organized the dialogue between the different levels of governments and stakeholders to support the VNR's process in your country? How local reporting, that means VLRs and VSRs in the case of Kenya, have been taken into consideration in the national reports. Then I will have the honor to invite Alfredo González Reyes to head of the 2030 agenda of the Mexican national government to take the floor. Please, Alfredo, go on.
Hi, Edgardo. Hi, colleagues. This is a great pleasure being here with you guys. Starting point, I would say, remember what Mexico is. It is a federal system with a colonial heritage of really high inequality, one of the highest inequalities levels in one of the most unequal regions in the world, Latin America, in terms of income, which in 2018 had a new government, a lot more oriented towards the lowest income population welfare. So this is a big change in this country, and this is the general context. And so it comes with its complexities, challenges, so in the process. Huge diversity between states and municipalities in terms of political views, geographically, linguistically, in terms of levels of development, including connectivity, of course. COVID-19, we all know, lockdown, a lot of difficulties to go through the national report process. And we had also the biggest election ever in history, half of the states, many municipalities, etc. What did we do? We created a commission to assort all different sectors of society. We brought on board the coordinator of the subnational report as part of that commission. We had several sessions to agree and follow up on the national report process. We had this big round of review of how we integrated those inputs from every sector. Something very important, I can't see my own timer, so please let me know.
Go on. You have 1 minute more.
Cool, thank you. Very important, we integrated every position from every actor as is, using their own language even. So you can find in the national report actually different languages. We thought it was very important to let that happen, to really reflect the position of every sector of society. We are launching actually next week nationally this national report along with representatives from these sectors of society, and we are using this launch to start an SDGs week in the country, and also a process of reviewing collaboration with every sector of society. How can we work together from now on in this new decade of action that we didn't expect before COVID-19? This is how we did it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. thank you for keep the time. Now we are going to the mayor of Sultan Bailey, Mr. Ketskin. If you can take the floor, please, answering this question, please. You have 3 minutes, 30 seconds before I will ask you to complete. Thank you very much.
Teşekkür eder, saygılar sunarım hepinize. Türkiye'nin 2019 yılında yayımladığı Gönüllü Ulusal Gözlem Geçirme raporunun hazırlık sürecine 2016'da yayımlanan rapora kıyasla yerel daha fazla dahil edilmiştir. Türkiye Belediyeler Birliği ve ULCG MEVA koordinatörlüğünde çalıştaylar ve anketler aracılığıyla yerel yönetimlere ilişkin bilgiler toplanarak rapora aktarılmıştır. Ulusal rapor, yerel yönetimlerin SK'larda ilerleme kaydedilmesinde önemli bir aktör olduğunu vurgular. Bu vurgu ile birlikte raporda katılımcılık ve kimseyi geride bırakmama ilkeleri öne çıkmıştır. Sultanbeyli VLR raporunda ulusal rapor referans alınarak katılımcılığa, hedeflerin yerel, ulusal, uluslararası düzeylerde uyumuna ve kimseyi geride bırakmama ilkesine önem verilmiştir. VLR raporu hazırlanırken ilçenin bütüncül olarak değerlendirilebilmesi için katılımcı bir süreç yürüttük. Yerel düzeyde hizmet sunan tüm kamu ve kurumları ve STK'lar ile istişareler ettik. Yapılan görüşmeler sonucunda farklı kurumlar tarafından yapılan hizmetler raporumuzda bütüncül bir yapıda sunulup izleme göstergeleri de ilçe düzeyinde belirlenmiştir. SK'ların başarılmasında kurumlar kadar vatandaşların katılımı da önemlidir. İlçede yaşayan vatandaşların ve hizmet sunan kurumların ilçenin sürdürülebilir kalkınma düzeyine ilişkin görüşleri alınmış ve SK'lar bazında karşılaştırmalı olarak değerlendirilmiştir. Böylece mevcut durum izleme göstergelerin haricinde algı ölçümü ile ortaya konmuştur. Türkiye olarak 2030 gündemine imza attığımız için ulusal plan ve raporlara yansıyan SK'lar yerel ölçeğe kadar inmektedir. VLR raporumuzda SK'lar doğrultusunda ülke genelinde gerçekleştirilen politikaların yerele nasıl yansıdığı aktarılmıştır. Her bir alt hedef başlığında ilgili Birleşmiş Milletler hedefi, Türkiye hedefi ve Sultanbeyli yerel hedefi eşleştirilmiş, ayrıca merkezi idare tarafından yürütülen ve yerelde etkisi olan faaliyetlere de raporda yer verilmiştir. Sultanbeyli 2014 yılından itibaren yoğun bir göç almıştır. Güncel mülteci nüfusu 25 bindir. İlçemizde mültecilerin desteklenmesine yönelik bütünsel bir hizmet mekanizması kurulmuştur. Yapılan çalışmaların sistematik bir şekilde sunulması ve değerlendirilmesi amacıyla kimseyi geride bırakma başlığı raporumuzda ayrı bir bölüm olarak değil, her bir SK alanında alt başlık olarak verilmiştir. Böylece kimseyi geride bırakma ilkesi bir SK alanında gözetilmiştir. Sultanbeyli VLR raporunun özetine chat kısmında paylaşılan link üzerinden ulaşabilirsiniz. Raporun tamamı Ekim 2021 tarihinde aynı adres bağlantısı üzerinden paylaşılacaktır.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As you see, we have here emerging two different visions from the national government and from bottom up from the local governments in the way that they are dialoguing to prepare to fit in the process of reporting to the UN. Now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Stefan Wagner from the city of Bonn in Germany. Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity to speak today. So as was mentioned, I'm a representative of a city in Germany. We have made good experience on a national coordination. There is, in Germany, there's a Secretary of State Committee on Sustainable Development who is in charge of the VNR and the implementation of Agenda 2030 on national grounds that is linking very closely to local level representatives. We also have a mayor's dialogue by the German Council for Sustainable Development that consists of 30 mayors from all over Germany. This council is a consultation body to the national government, publishing position papers with local wishes to the national government when it comes to the Agenda 2030 implementation. Same dialogue also take place at the regional level, the state level here in Germany. So I think there's a good exchange which is ongoing. There's also a network of more than 170 municipalities in Germany that signed the Agenda 2030 declaration by the German Association of Cities, that network amongst themselves. So there's a good consultation. This also is for the first time now seen in the national report by Germany to be handed in this year, because for the first time there is an appendix, a municipal contribution to the VNR, to the German VNR, that takes particularly note and reference to the value and the importance of local level in Germany when it comes to the SDG implementation. And this is thanks to the German Association of Cities that this municipal contribution has been included to our national report. Anyway, we still believe there is room for improvement. So I think the different levels in Germany, national, state level, and local level, can be better, should be better aligned. Of course, the national goals do not necessarily match with the local level goals. This is also part of our self-understanding as a local level and our self-autonomy that we have, but more integrated approaches are necessary if you really want to have the SDGs implemented all the way down to the local level, we believe. Therefore, as the city of Bonn, we are actually already also participating in a project to have a more comprehensive and more binding reporting scheme put in place. This is called Reporting Frame Sustainability Municipality, and it's also run by the Council on Sustainable Development. And we are, hope that this will come up. There are a lot of people, there are 15 municipalities participating in this process, also creating VLRs in the next step. So we hope that this project will come up with some more ideas and more systemized approaches also on local level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And as you see, we have two different models of federal countries here, how they operate in the dialogue between the national and local, and how, but both of them integrate the voice of local governments in their report. And this is a very interesting lesson. Now we move to another country that is, and particularly to the Basque country, that have also is, Spain is a strange nature, is a unitary country, but with a quasi-federal structure. And the Basque country was leading the process of reporting on the SDGs from the subnational level for many years now. Then I have the pleasure to introduce Jonas Fernandez Erdosia, General Secretary of the Social Transition and 2030 Agenda of the Basque Country. Jonan, the floor is yours. Jonan? Please go on.
Bien. Amigos y amigas de ONU Habitat, muy buenas tardes y muchas gracias por la invitación. Enhorabuena por la presentación de los informes que se han presentado hoy. El tema que nos ocupa y al que se nos ha invitado en este panel es para nosotros importante. Por una parte, representamos un país con una fuerte voluntad de autogobierno y, por otra parte, las instituciones vascas hemos expresado un intenso compromiso con los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. En esta primera intervención se nos plantean dos preguntas. La respuesta a ambas, en el caso del Estado español y de esa estructura autonómica a la que ha hecho referencia el moderador, diríamos que estamos dando solo los primeros pasos en un modelo de cogobernanza o de gobernanza colaborativa. Hay buena voluntad, pero de momento no hemos superado una primera fase que podríamos denominar de cogobernanza formal. Podríamos decir que estos procesos tienen margen de mejora. Es cierto que se mantienen reuniones interterritoriales entre las diferentes comunidades del Estado o que se mencionan en los informes nacionales, los informes locales. Pero es necesario avanzar en una doble clave: mayor coordinación en red y mayor autonomía. No se puede ocultar una cierta dificultad y tensión entre una visión más centralizadora y una más descentralizada. Se ha de tener en cuenta que los gobiernos subestatales tenemos en gran medida las competencias que pueden aterrizar las políticas públicas comprometidas con los ODS. Aplaudimos por eso este enfoque de los informes subnacionales, porque ayudan a visibilizar este valor diferencial. Aprovecho para informar que el Gobierno vasco acaba de aprobar el Programa Vasco de Prioridades de la Agenda 2030. Es un plan de actuación para los próximos 4 años con 7 compromisos tractores y 7 proyectos emblemáticos. Este programa crea un foro multiagente de transición social y Agenda 2030 que quiere en el nivel vasco poner en práctica la cogobernanza entre los distintos departamentos del gobierno, las distintas instituciones vascas, ayuntamientos y la colaboración público-privada y de la sociedad civil organizada. Trataremos de que este foro sea la ocasión de profundizar en un modelo de cogobernanza que vaya más allá de lo formal y permita una colaboración real. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti. Thank you very much. And now I'm moving just directly to Ken Oloch of the Council of Governors of Kenya. And it is a pleasure to talk again with you, Ken, as we were working together last year on the voluntary subnational review of Kenya. Thank you very much. Go on, Ken.
Hello, everyone. Indeed, it's a pleasure to participate in this momentous occasion and to be given an opportunity to give an intervention and share the Kenyan experience. In Kenya, we embraced a new form of government in 2013, where we have the central government and the 47 devolved governments. And the Council of Governors is the umbrella association for all the devolved governments who are allocated specific functions by the Constitution to legislate and to implement specific programs. So in terms of the national VNR process, we have a national interagency technical committee for which the Council of Governors is a member. And this, basically, you know that Kenya has reported twice in 2017 and in 2020. And this, we saw a remarked improvement based on our advocacy. In 2017, we were not very much involved in the national process. But in 2020, last year, we played a critical role where we were part of the Interagency Technical Committee. And basically, Kenya adopted a whole society, whole government approach. And the 47 subnational governments were engaged in dialogue and were given the opportunity to document the progress that they had made on SDGs implementation based on a guided template. Later on, they were also involved in the validation process. So progressively, we've seen inclusion of subnational government in the VNR, the national VNR process. But this said, we still find that the national VNR gives some false hope because of the national averages when you look at the poverty index. And so we feel that the VLRs and voluntary, the subnational reviews really give the right picture. And so in 2019, we piloted with 5 counties doing local voluntary reports. And we really look at these guidelines as a momentous occasion, which will help us to deepen the process of voluntary local review and engage more counties in the local reporting. And we also look at opportunity for experience sharing and learning, because currently we've also developed a handbook for documenting SDGs best practices. So we look at the VLR process as a really opportunity, one, for engaging with the national government on dialogue on national policy issues, but also on highlighting specific best practices from county governments. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you very much. I only put a highlight on the fact that in Kenya, local governments association are not only consulted, they are part of the national coordination mechanism. They have a seat in the decision-making process, and this is very important. I move now to Japan, where that was one of the pioneers in the voluntary local reporting process. And Fujino was one of the of the leaders of this process. Fujino, please explain us how you operate in Japan.
Thank you very much, Edgar, for very kind invitation for this very important panel. And also congrats for the volume to for Edgardo, Emilia, UCLG team, also Ivu Maimuna, Shipra, Martino, UN Habitat team. I also appreciate when we launched the first three VL report at the High Level Political Forum 2018, and Edgardo, Emilia, also UN Habitat team kindly support us to launch the VLR at the Global Local Regional Government Forum 2018 in New York. It is the first time to launch the VLR, including the New York. And now it's a movement. Yeah, it's quite great. And Japan. Tomorrow, Japanese government will launch the second version of the VNR at the official event. And then in this VNR, Japanese government kindly include 4 Japanese VLRs, including Kitakyushu, Shimokawa, Toyama, Hamamatsu. Because now Japanese government also highlight kind of good collaboration between VNR, VLR. In Japan, we have a kind of a unique system. We call it the SDGs Future City Program. It also kindly highlight at the this guideline, VLR guideline, page 32 and then page 33. Edgar, thank you very much, kindly sharing. And this came to select kind of the SDGs Future City by the like a proposal, and then it started from the 2018, so everything started from 2018. Now there is update. There are 124 SDGs Future City in Japan who developed the planning, SDGs planning, also action, and then a PDCA cycle together with national and then local stakeholder. So in Japan, potentially another 120 cities can submit the VLR at this moment, but for the especially Japanese local government, there is kind of barrier of the language, so then someone like IJS or any other body may need to help the local government to share these lessons together with the global community. Also about the involvement of the stakeholder, Japanese government set the round table to invite a variety of stakeholders, and then the day after tomorrow, Friday, there is the VNR Labo from the 9 a.m. New York time, and then in this VNR Labo, Japanese government shares the lesson learned from the VNR development process. So then please join us, and then we'd like to share with you, also learn from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Fujino. And this is a great conversation. We learn a lot from each other with different contexts, with different relations between national and local governments. Now the question, as we have only 15 minutes, even less, 12 minutes to close this session. I will ask you now to speak to 2 sentences. What is important for you in the coming year to expand even more this relation between national and local government, to expand the VLR's process, if you feel that it's helped you to develop the assessing process of the progress in your country in the implementation of the SDGs? Then, what are the proposals and what do you expect from national government or from international organization or from local governments network to help you enhance the localization movement and particularly the VLR movement? Please, 2-3 sentences more. I keep the same order. I begin with Mexico. Alfredo, what do you think about?
Thank you, Edgardo. Okay, maybe 3 things. Keep going with information to state governments, because new governments are coming and many times they still don't know. In Mexico, we're 127 million people. It's a huge country. So that's very important. on basics on planning, budgeting, and implementation, and coordination with National Statistics Authority. 2, guides like the one being presented today are very important, but also in tandem with the academy, universities, because we need to make these tools very, very easy, and public officials at the local level need to feel that this is not an academic exercise. So we need to help them see that. And we have experiences from before, from localizing MDGs even. We have reports back then and experiences at the local level, what did work, what didn't work. And 3, more agile strategies to finance and elaborate local reports. In Mexico, we have already 8, almost 9 local reports, but these states or municipalities are relatively high income ones. The lowest income municipalities are not there yet, and they will not be if we do not facilitate finance and an easy way to achieve the reports. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Alfredo. Then I will give the floor now to the mayor of Sultan Beyli, Mr. Keskin, if you want to share with us 2, 3 proposals from your experience as mayor of the city to expand your experience and share it with other Turkish cities and maybe also beyond Turkish. Go on, please, Mayor. Mayor Keskin.
Edgardo, I think there are some problems with the interpreter.
I don't know if...
Yes, so I think if you go to the next one until colleagues can solve this.
Okay, then I give the floor to Bon, to Stefan Wagner.
I think the interpreter is connected now, Edgardo. Apologies.
Okay, very well. No problem. Mr. Keskin, you hear me? You can speak now? No. I will, in the time the interpreter...
Can you hear me?
Well, yes, I can hear you. Go on, please.
Okay.
Then the question is if the mayor can very shortly give 2, 3 ideas what he needs or what he suggests as based on his experience to enhance the localization, the VLR process and the localization process in his country, sharing with other cities, and what kind of support he needs from international institutions, local government networks, and even for the national government. Please, Mayor, you have the floor.
The effective implementation of the VLR processes can be achieved by local governments developing methods on data retention and data-driven decision-making. Steps to be taken in this manner can be listed as follows: creation of RD units, employment of expert personnel, use of up-to-date software and programs, inclusion of principles on participation and transparency into the corporate culture, and finally, the creation of city panels where open data is shared publicly. As a district municipality, we have created a database where all the district level data are kept in order to ensure a sustainable data management in the VLR process. Also, currently, we are working to establish an open data platform through which the public can access relevant data. By doing so, our aim is to contribute to the transformation of data into information. Another important issue is an interagency coordination by preparing our VLR guidance of expert institutions was needed to determine a methodology for the report and to ensure the systematic progress of the process. But we could not be in regular contact with relevant institutions other than the UCLG.
Uzman kuruluşların rehberliğine ihtiyaç duyulmuş. Ancak USCG dışında düzenli olarak muhatap bir kuruluşla çalışma imkanı maalesef olmamıştır.
In order to increase awareness on the localization of SDGs and to support institutions for developing their methods, it would be beneficial to establish a structure that will serve as a guide at all levels under the leadership of expert institutions. This way, institutions will be able to adapt to the process more easily. Although the VLR guidelines prepared by UCLG and UN Habitat are instructive, the fact that UN targets are prepared at the national level makes it difficult to align SDGs to the local level. A sustainable office has been established within the institution to adapt the SDGs to Sultanbeyli. While conducting the VLR studies, our team received support from experts and benefited from local indicator sets created by other cities. A standard monitoring evaluation tool can be offered to all local governments by making updates on SDG targets and indicators in line with the local level. With this tool, local governments
standart bir izleme değerlendirme aracı sunulabilir. Böylece yerel yönetimler ulusal ve uluslararası düzeyde kendi konumunu görme fırsatına sahip olacaktır. Teşekkür ederim. Sanırım vaktinde tamamladım.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if the interpreter finished. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I give the floor now to Stefan. Stefan, it's your turn to make some suggestions, some proposals for all the institutions, networks that are here, and for your government also.
Thank you very much. I will use this opportunity gladly. So first of all, with a perspective on Germany and implementation, we need, we as cities in Germany need a more legal and solid legal and financial framework to really implement SDGs, because it's a voluntary task still, and the capacity of cities varies dramatically within Germany to do that. There are a lot of support programs, but they need maybe a better coordination. This is now addressed to the German level, so to say. On the international level, we only have 3 VLRs published in Germany, to my knowledge. This is not a lot, given the examples from Finland and Japan and others. So I think we need more information of German cities about the necessity and the benefit of these VLRs, and the strong movement and voice from the local level, also international on the international field. And this is something that is Germany lacking behind, to my impression. And maybe this also would help if the national level would support the cities even more in being a real part of the VNR movement. As I said, there are first steps done in a good direction, but this needs to be followed up. So I hope that your guidelines will also help us in Germany to get more cities on board on VLRs in the future. I leave it for the moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I give the floor now to the Basque Country, to Jonan Fernandez, please.
Muchas gracias. Telegráficamente, ¿qué necesitamos? Pues necesitamos espacios, necesitamos voz y necesitamos codecisión, tanto en el ámbito estatal como en el ámbito internacional. Un gobierno subestatal como el vasco, eso es lo que principalmente necesita. Y me permito añadir muy brevemente algunas sugerencias más de tipo conceptual. Deberíamos combatir la autocomplacencia Agenda 2030, si se le puede denominar de esta manera, y combatirla con una mayor autoexigencia. Y junto con ello también una preocupación por el desconocimiento social sobre lo que representa la Agenda 2030. La desinformación y desconocimiento en la base de la sociedad, y creo que no solamente es un problema local en Euskadi, en el País Vasco, sino en el mundo, es grandísimo, y creo que todos deberíamos hacer un mayor esfuerzo en divulgación para que la sociedad entienda qué es esto de los ODS y de la Agenda 2030. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Jonan. Now, directly to Ken Pollock, if you can propose, based on your experience, 2-3 ideas to enhance the movement. Go on, please.
Thank you very much. I think in Kenya, what we need is a strengthened capacity for data management And we are lucky that Kenya has just developed what we call the Kenya National Strategy for Management of Statistics. So which recognize all the data communities and recognizing administrative data and citizen-generated data. So the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics will support in developing norms and standards because data has been our main challenge for local VLRs. And we believe that with that we'll get a great milestone. The next is we have developed what you're calling COVID-19 socioeconomic reengineering and recovery strategy. And we believe that that will help us to put us back on track on some of the SDGs that have been, whose gains have been reversed. So we are currently working on mainstreaming that strategy in the county or subnational government local plans. And we believe that with that, and then looking at multi-level stakeholder engagement, the community dialogues, as well as experience sharing and integrating new thinking, partnership with the research institutions, we'll be able to strengthen our data, the voluntary local reviews at the county level. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Ken. And finally, Mr. Fujino, it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so 3.1 is to develop kind of a simple format of the VLR because many cities feel that it's sometimes a bit complex. So but it could be well connected with the VNR because the linkage is quite important. Also, I think like a web system can be also very interesting that the Finnish team kindly suggested. So to how to develop such a simple but well connected with the VNR format for VLR. And second point is the value added. When I introduced this VLR system to the Japanese city, sometimes Japanese city may need more value added or incentive. So then how we can introduce more like solutions or like a methodology through this VLR system, because the city needs a solution to achieve the SDGs. So how we can have more value added. And then last point is that the like a methodology or solutions, because we are like IGS is a research institute, and then recently we published the I cannot show this one. This is a state of VLR report for volume 2. Sorry, it's not well shown, but we also surveyed all the VLR for having better analysis, and then we have like SDGs interlinkage too to find the synergy and trade-off of the SDGs goals and target in a national level or local level. So how we work together with like UCLG or all of you to share these kind of methodology solutions through VLR system, because our ultimate goal is to achieve SDGs for the national level, subnational level, and also local level. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all of you. Thank you for keeping the time. I know I pushed you a little the last time, but they are pushing me also. Then only three to four words to summarize, and I give back the micro to Shipra. First of all, I need someone of you put on the light the question that we need clear national strategy for localizing SDGs with clear frameworks and clear programs that support this initiative. Then that is the basis of expanding movement. Then we need to develop different kind of guidelines and methodologies that will be adapted for different kind of local governments, even for small and weakened local governments that could integrate, create ownership and adapt it to their situation. Then we need a better coordination between all, not only the levels of government, but also between local governments, between regional and local governments, as the collaborative governance that is proposed in the Basque Country, for example. This is an important support from the intermediate local governments to local governments to improve and strengthen this movement. And finally, as it was saying by Don, we need more space for hear the voices of local government in the national reporting process. We need more spaces for co-decision, national, local, but also local and sub-local with stakeholders and citizens. I think this is only some keywords. The conversation was much more rich that I cannot summarize all now, but nevertheless, I think these words will be stay in your minds for the future. Thank you very much, and Shipra, it's your turn to close the process. Go on.
Edgardo, thank you. And thank you, colleagues. Thank you for that summary, Edgardo. My goodness, I could not have done that in those 4 points, but that was very precise and captured a lot of what was said. And thank you again to all the panelists for sharing their experiences and also for some very pragmatic recommendations that came. In case you haven't looked at the chat, it's a very dynamic space right now. There's a lot of conversation going on there. So please do take a peek. We now move into the last section of this event, of this launch today. And this is the launch of the VLR communique. We have 2 speakers here, my colleague and dear friend Carmen Sanchez Miranda, who is the head of the UN Habitat Spain office. And we have Santiago Saura Martinez, Counselor for International Affairs and Cooperation of Madrid City Council. And I will invite both of them to present the VLR communique and their thoughts on it. Madrid has, of course, been a great supporter and champion of this work. They have contributed financially and substantially. They hosted the expert group meeting for the elaboration of these guidelines and have really held our hand throughout the process. So Santiago, from all of us again towards Madrid City Council, thank you for your incredible and untiring support to this process. But first, Carmen, over to you, and then to Santiago.
Thank you, Shipra. As mentioned, this communique is the result of the fruitful discussions that took place during the expert group meeting that was virtually held last February, thanks, as mentioned, to the support from Madrid City Council. All institutions and partners gathered at that EGM recognize that the voluntary local reviews global community has been growing at an encouraging pace. And this rapid progress demonstrates that cities and local governments have the willingness, the capacity, and a significant progress worth reporting. The VLRs are powerful tools to advance the localization of the SDGs because the processes strengthen coordination, accountability, transparency, horizontal and vertical cooperation, participation, and awareness of the goals. And VLRs were also recognized as drivers of innovation by and for the cities to advance progress on their local priorities. They provide first-hand information on how local and regional governments are leading the way in the implementation of the SDGs, because the VLR tell the stories and describe how residents and territories have mobilized for policy initiatives, community building, and advocacy that aims to bring the goals to every doorstep, every institution, and every company. The local reviews are changing the local-national dynamic through national-local linkages, because the VLR movement have increased the demand for institutional intermediation between local, subnational, and national level, and several countries have even established interinstitutional and cross-level mechanisms that work as new high legitimacy spaces to work together and to exchange data and practices. Next slide, please. So definitely, the emergence of the VLRs and the information they provide is changing the approach to the national reviews. And they are even changing the way we think of SDGs localization. Through VLRs, local and regional governments can engage with their communities in a much more transparent and accountable way, while advancing the mainstreaming of the SDGs in their functions and service delivery to leave no one behind. Because VLRs offer, among others, new means of participation. They have helped mobilization and enhanced political engagement of residents and vulnerable population groups in governance processes to increase the co-ownership of the 2030 agenda. The VLRs are also showing the progress made by local governments and local actors in the generation and treatment of data. There is a deep knowledge in the numbers that have the potential to bring out the intra-city and urban disparities through better disaggregation of data and analysis. And finally, it was strongly emphasized that achieving the SDGs and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic are two sides of the same coin. Local government's current priority is to provide a solid response to the socioeconomic challenges that pandemic is generating. And VLRs have been used as a tool to interlock the advances on localizing the SDGs, providing solid evidence to inform recovery plans at all levels. Next slide, please. However, much work still needs to be done to give local and regional governments and local stakeholders the resources they need and acknowledge the role they play in the SDGs review process. And the institutions and partners gathered at this EGM committed to work together and urged the international community to join their efforts to support the VLRs. Because the VLRs are driving in several cities, but more can be done to uplift best practices and build a shared knowledge platform. We need more bridges, we need more dialogue, and a truly enabling and constructive reporting ecosystem based on multi-level and multi-sector partnerships in which all sources come together with SDG implementation as the common goal of this process. We also need support to data and indicators, and in this sense, the global urban monitoring framework will allow for a common baselines for cities as well as the benchmark across cities. Local and national connections are key to lasting progress on the goals. The imperative is to create an ecosystem in which decision-making, strategic planning, and the sustainable development of communities and territories is a fully co-owned, multi-level and multi-stakeholder process. The global movement, next slide, please. Yeah, the global movement of local and regional governments have been actively advocating for the urgent need of improved multi-level governance mechanisms for collaboration to achieve the SDGs. And two entities, the national associations of local governments and subnational governments, are key to fill the national-local gap. They both should be supported, and subnational governments' capacities also reinforced in light of their legislative power on almost all areas covered by VLRs. And finally, but not least, there was a clear commitment regarding the UN support, because the UN is the institution able to create the link between the local, national, regional, and global levels of action. UN Habitat, the UN Regional Commissions, the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the UN country teams, and the UN resident coordinators' offices, along with national governments and local and regional governments networks, will work in coordinated and efficient manner to further support VLRs and voluntary subnational reviews, facilitating coordination with the voluntary national review process and improving participation and recognition of local governments and communities within the UN-led international processes in the spirit of the UN Charter and of the UN 75 Declaration. Thank you, Shipra. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you for an elaboration of that process and how it went. I will now give the floor straight to Santiago to talk about the communique from a Madrid perspective.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon here in Madrid, in Spain, or good morning or evening, depending on where you are in the world. First of all, I would like to thank UN Habitat and UCLG, to Maimuna and Emilia and their teams, Carmen and all the team, for their leadership and their continued support to local as well as regional governments in progressing towards the SDGs. Today, UN Habitat and USCLG have once again provided us with important support and important opportunities as reports.
What are we doing? Tomorrow we are going to.
Sorry?
Colleagues, may I ask everyone to mute their microphones, please, if you're not speaking? Thank you very much. Please, Santiago.
Thank you. Thank you. I was saying that we have now, thanks to UN Habitat and UCLG, important new support and opportunities to report, help us to report, to enrich and to share our work at the local level and to demonstrate also the key role of cities in achieving the global agendas and the SDGs in general. As Councillor of Madrid City Council, I am glad that my city has been supporting significantly this process and the communique presented today. And from Madrid, we will continue to provide this contribution by supporting as well the development, as has been already mentioned, of a global urban monitoring framework for the new urban agenda and the urban dimensions of the SDGs. And we hope that this global monitoring framework will be presented next year to the United Nations Statistical Commission under the leadership of UN Habitat. On the voluntary local reviews specifically, we believe that these are key for us, the cities, to align and to improve our efforts towards the global goals and agendas. And in Madrid in particular, we have recently formally approved and updated a comprehensive SDG localization strategy with 104 local targets and 160 indicators to monitor progress and to track progress from here to 2030. This strategy has been developed through the joint work of all the departments of the Madrid City Council, but not only. We have involved and we have had contributions from a variety of actors of the broader city system, from NGOs to private sector to trade unions and even some international organizations that have assisted us in this process. And all these contributions have contributed with additional targets and additional indicators in the SDG strategy of Madrid. So in this way, our strategy is aligned and is coordinated with our, of course, municipal plans and budget in all and each of the different areas of the Madrid City Council, but also with the national and European priorities and policies. And now we have with this strategy a clear roadmap of what we want to have in our city, what we want to achieve in our city by 2030, and how to achieve that. And based on this recent SDG strategy, we are committed to present our VLR next year at the high-level political forum. And we are committed to do so because the production of VLRs in general in cities, we think that serves a double purpose, as already stated in the communique. In fact, first, it can help the city to assess its own achievement of the SDGs, but second, it can also stimulate harmonization and assessment of the contribution of cities to the achievement of the 2030 agenda at the country level, at the regional level as well, in our case at the European level, in the case of Madrid, and at the global level. So for these purposes, it's critical to have a common set of indicators for the VLR that are integrated and harmonized as much as possible with indicators and the data required for the voluntary national reviews. In addition, a relevant and an increasing number of voluntary local reviews will support the case of multi-level governance that has been already mentioned before, and also enable countries to integrate the assessments at the local level into the national one as they get more and more representative of more cities in a given country or regionally. Also, the countries with a high level of awareness of the importance of the local implementation of the SDGs and of the cooperation among these different levels of governments and also stakeholders will benefit the most from these processes in the implementation, in the monitoring, but also in reviewing and in redefining policy actions for a better achievement of the SDGs. For Madrid, and I think that for local governments more broadly, the value of a VLR is in the process as much as in the product. We understand this process as an opportunity or as a set of opportunities linked to specific elements of the VLR process. This is in fact captured in the communique, but I would like to emphasize briefly a few key points here. First, through this process, we can and we must enhance the coordination between city departments and ensure policy coherence. Second, we can strengthen a shared vision of sustainable development through participation that involves all the city system, the local stakeholders, the private sector, the academia, civil society organizations, etc. And third, we can foster local planning for sustainable development and the mobilization of private investment for SDG plans and projects with actual impact. In this sense, and to conclude, we widen the localization process by promoting a territorial approach that involves all the stakeholders and not just the local administration in the process. And last but not least, VLRs are a key contribution to raise the voice of cities, to strengthen the voice of cities, and to call to the international systems and to the national governments to promote the reforms that we need, and also the resources locally to strengthen and to ensure universal access to quality public services that leave no one behind. I would like to conclude thanking Maimuna and Emilia for the great work that UCLG and ONU Habitat are doing for making possible and supporting this global movement of VLRs. Thank you very much. We remain committed to continue and to strengthen this collaboration, and I hope that next time we will be able to meet physically and hopefully meeting you here, welcoming you here in our city in Madrid. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We all hope so, Santiago. We all hope so very much. But in the meantime, thank you for your virtual hospitality and your very, very strong support to this process. Colleagues, friends, we are almost at the end of this session, and it is now my very great pleasure to invite Mr. Mehmet Duman, the Secretary General of UCLG MEWA, to give us some closing remarks.
Thank you, Shipra. Your Excellency, Executive Director of UN Habitat, Maimuna Sharif, distinguished UCLG Secretary General Emilia Sais, these representatives of local, regional, and national governments, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to all partners and speakers for sharing their insightful reflections throughout this important session. I'd like to stress some key ideas that we have resonated strongly today. Firstly, I think that indeed a key lesson that we must learn these days is that no actor alone can address the global challenges we are facing. It is thus urgent to reinforce cooperation at all levels and between all stakeholders. In fact, we organize many consultation and coordination meetings in preparation of this high-level political forum, keeping in mind the importance of multi-stakeholders approach in amplifying the voices of the local level. Every one of us has a role to play in order to advance our societies towards consecution of the consecution of the local authorities. As underlined in the guidelines in the communique of the Madrid meeting and during the previous debates, the VLRs have a large transformational potential. The voluntary local reviews are political processes that have the capacity of directly influence of local policy making. They have a positive impact on data collection, management, and analysis, which is fundamental for evidence-based policy making. They can lead to increased participation in SDG achievement, bringing local actors together and increasing SDG ownership across society. Indeed, the second key idea that I would like to highlight is that VLR also have the capacity to open up and consolidate dialogue with the national level, in turn ensuring that national monitoring is nurtured with local realities and local voices. They have a tremendous potential to strengthen coherence of our actions between local, regional, and national governments with the key support of international organizations. This is shown clearly by the guidelines that we have launched today. Actual synergies exceed expectations. When taken together, local and subnational reviews and national reviews provide the most insightful and evidence-based account of progress towards the SDGs. These tools can indeed contribute to immense of efforts to build a more sustainable and just future. Allow me to conclude by saying this: in order to really scale up the reach and impact of this process and the role of local and regional governments and their networks, VLR and local actions must be appropriately acknowledged and made part of national strategies, reporting units, and coordination mechanism. They also need to be granted a seat and international decision-making tables, including the regional and global fora for sustainable development. Here, it must be underlined that a dedicated presentation mechanism should be in a place for the VLRs, as the case of the voluntary national reviews. As shown by the guidelines, there are inspiring examples that are paving the way forward in this respect and which have already given highlight positive outcomes. As stressed in the communique, it will only be by fully committing to working together that we will overcome the great challenges we are facing. Time is pressing and much work is yet to be done. Yet, tools like one presented today, together with commitment of local and regional governments and supporting institutions, we are a step closer from achieving the SDGs and a sustainable and fairer future for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Secretary General. And we are really at the end of the session today. We've heard, many good examples. We've heard from Finland, we heard from Mexico, from Kenya, from Japan. We heard at the regional level from the Basque Country, and we heard the examples of Helsinki and Bonn and Sultan Bailey. And if you followed the chat, we have a lot of resources that were shared in the chat. So before this meeting room disappears, I hope you've downloaded all of them and copied all of the links somewhere. For me, one thing, the pandemic has set us back, as Emilia said right in the beginning, on many sustainable development goals. But even before the pandemic, there was a setback on multi-level governance and on empowerment of local and regional governments to fulfill their roles and their functions. The VLR-VNR connection, the VLR-VSR-VNR connection is the one that can really help rebuild that relationship, rebuild that communication, provide the voice and the space for local and regional governments in national platforms, in international platforms, provide a fresh impetus, a fresh boost to SDG localization. The guidelines we've launched today, we hope will help you explore this further, will accompany you on that journey. The communique that we have launched today, we hope will provide you with some more food for thought and some more food for reflection. And as Santiago said, the urban monitoring framework and many other new tools and resources that are coming up, we hope will accompany you on that journey. Executive Director, thank you for staying with us. Emilia, thank you for staying with us throughout this process, not just today, throughout this journey. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, friends. This is really a phenomenal moment for us, but onwards and upwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Take
great
care.
evening.
Gracias,
Thank you very
Maris.
Bye-bye.
much.
Gracias.
Bye. Oyasuminasai.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you to everybody. Gracias
Thank you
a
very much.
todos.
Join us tomorrow. Remember, Voluntary
Gracias.
International Day.
Yes.
Supuesto.
Thank you, Emilia. Bye-bye.